Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Circle One. I'm your host, John Swiston, and we're joined today by three phenomenal guests. My good friend, Abel. Hello,
Good
Abel.
morning.
Another good friend,
Hello.
Ryan.
Hello.
And finally, a good friend, Brandon.
Hello.
So we're going to get to introducing these fine gentlemen a little bit more formally in a minute, but as is customary off the top of the show, a little bit of a description of the show and what we're trying to do here. So the show is called Circle One, and basically it started as an idea in which we would use a live stream format to explore some ideas that were a little bit broader and beyond maybe the 24-hour news cycle or things that are currently going on. Obviously, there's a lot of very interesting things going on right now. But at my firm, Auxesys, we basically have a bet or a thesis, and that is that the future of work will include more people being their own boss, more people working where they want, how they want, and doing the type of work that they want. And that, that traditional professional life, traditional career, and even industry is going to change quite a bit. Now, we thought that a lot of these changes were going to happen over the course of the coming 5 to 10 years, and it seems like we've been thrust forth into many of these changes a little bit more quickly than even we anticipated. And so we like the idea of the name of the show, Circle One. We were throwing around the idea of calling the show Square One, but typically Square One means when you have to scrap a project and start all over from scratch, starting at square one. And what we're trying to say here at Auxesys is that we don't need to scrap the whole project of work and career and professional life. There are many good things there in our traditional conceptions of them, but maybe we could reimagine the shape a little bit. Oh, Circle One, here we are. And so, I think this episode requires a little bit more of a background on Auxesys. Auxesys is a professional services firm that provides systems integration services to our clients. And what we do is we work on a highly strategic basis with our clients. And what we do in terms of execution is work with a very talented and distributed pool of independent contractors. We've got people of all sorts of walks of life and different backgrounds, types of skills and expertise that we work with on a regular basis, and some that we're still getting to know and just starting to engage with. And those are independent contractors. So those people are their own bosses. They do a lot of work for Auxesys. Often they do a lot of work for themselves and for other people. But we've found it to be fascinating and extremely valuable to engage with people in that manner. And so before you, I present three of our core Auxesys independent contractors, I think, that fall into the category of being, I don't want to say young, but you guys are starting out your journeys in professional life and career. Brandon being still in university, and Abel and Ryan having now explored post-university professional life. So I think now is the time where I'm maybe going to turn it over to you guys to talk a little bit about yourselves, describe who you are and what you do. Maybe I'll start with Abel. Abel, would you mind introducing yourself, full name, and kind of what you're up to these days and what you've done so far professionally?
Absolutely. Hi, so my name is Abel Nyamori. I am a recent graduate of the After School of Business. I just finished there actually in December. So I should be walking the stage soon, but unfortunately, with everything that's going on, that's not going to be happening. But I was actually fortunate enough to be traveling right now. So I am in Australia. I am taking, I guess, an extended trip, and it's been a really good time. I've really enjoyed, I guess, the last few months of being out here. And my professional experience has really been, I guess, quite diverse. I'm not sure if it's considered professional experience, but I really count my engagement in university as something like that. So I was on a lot of committees, I did a lot of case competitions, and that really developed me as a speaker, as a presenter, as a thinker in general. And then I also partook in the co-op program. So I had three full work terms in my university, which I guess added up to a full year of work experience. And then I actually stayed on part time with the last one that I worked with. And between these engagements is how I actually ended up meeting John, and then one thing led to another, and here I am now.
Excellent. And when are you coming back to us, man? We miss you.
You know what? I will let you know as soon as I do. That is still in the air a little bit. I'm having too good of a time to come back right now. I'm sorry, John.
Okay, fair enough. Excellent, excellent. So maybe we'll turn now to Ryan, and maybe Ryan, you can tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, what you've been up to, and a little bit of your professional endeavors.
Yeah, my name is Ryan Haughey. Yeah, I like the game. And I am, I guess you could say I'm a professional writer. I graduated from the University of Winnipeg last April with a communications degree. And I've done a lot of volunteer work since then. A lot of my writing is reviews and music reviews. Largely, I write for different publications like Stylus Magazine in Winnipeg and Exclaim Online Media. And I've been doing a couple of other reviews for different publications online and in print and stuff like that. I used to work for the University of Winnipeg, their newspaper, the Uniter, and that was a really good experience. I was the campus reporter there, and that was my first real professional writing experience. And then after university, I started looking for work, and it was pretty tough to find work in the field that's like full-time or even part-time positions. And so I kind of bounced around a lot and tried a few different things, and was trying to do lots of volunteer work and get my experience up. And now I'm quite new to the freelance workforce and the independent contractor lifestyle and work style. But I'm really enjoying it, and it's a really great experience that I find very valuable. And that's where I am now, and I get to write, and it's my passion, and I'm really excited about that.
Awesome.
Great.
Thanks so much, Ryan.
No worries.
I am going to throw you guys a little bit of curveball after we talk with Brandon and maybe circle back to some of the writing stuff. Yeah, Brandon Ladngraff, can you maybe tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, what you do, and your professional endeavors?
Absolutely. I'm currently still in university studying at the Asper School of Business. I'm now heading into my my fourth year of studies, looking to get a degree in marketing. In terms of my professional endeavors, I guess the easiest way to describe myself is I'm a freelance marketer, designer, and thinker with a minimalist approach. I do freelance work and I'm interested in brand development, graphic design, and also web development. And I've engaged in quite a few projects with Auxesys and a lot of other local startups and businesses here in Winnipeg. Also within school, I've been in quite a few different student groups, and I found that I've had a knack for branding. And yeah, now I'm mostly just doing freelance work and trying to finish up my degree.
Excellent. So, Brandon, it's been really interesting to hear about your experiences both freelance and at school. And before we jump into some of the topics that we've discussed previous to today's show, I was hoping to maybe, and this is the curveball, discuss with you guys a little bit more of the type of work that we've all done together. I know Brandon and Ryan have worked together a little bit, and previously Brandon and Abel had worked together a little bit. I'm really, I'll be honest, I'm hopeful that we could put the three of you guys together one day as like a dream team.
Oh yeah.
But maybe we can start again with Abel, and I know you touched on it a bit, but maybe can you let us know just a bit about your work experience with Auxesys, being an independent contractor, being your own boss, and maybe the types of projects generally that you worked on?
Yeah, absolutely. I guess I was brought in to assist with a client project. So it was really within. I'm not sure how much I can say. So if I say too much, John, just cut me off on the call. But it was a client project where the client needed some business plans written, and so I assisted. I think these were the exact words that were said during our last call, John. It was the synthesis and more, just the taking the beautiful pieces that were written by the finance team, by the marketing team, by by everyone else, and just making it into like a single cohesive piece, and creating, I guess, a document that was much more the initial launch, the launch side of the company, which was a really exciting thing to work on. Some of the general tasks around the office, and yeah, I think that covers the majority of it.
Excellent. And tell me honestly, how did you like the work?
I really enjoyed it. It was stimulating, and it was, I guess, just a really nice way of taking, all these things you learn in school, when you do case writing, when you learn about market sizing and kind of just how to present ideas. So it was a really good way of bringing all those things together in a real way, in a way that I actually contributing to a local business within Winnipeg. So that was fantastic. And I got to work with some really cool people. And so that's always a bonus. So no, it was 10 out of 10. I would recommend.
Awesome. Just to kind of append what Abel said, we were extremely pleased with plugging Abel and Brandon in on those projects. And I think they provided a lot of real value for a lot of real people. We produced some real tangible things and real tangible results. And those are some of the projects that I was most proud of with Abel and Brandon that we completed at Auxesys. So thanks very much for your help with those. They were a hoot. All right, maybe we can just hear a little bit from Ryan about the type of stuff that you've been doing with Auxesys as an independent and how you've been contributing.
Yeah, for sure. My big contribution has been to the news section of the Auxesys website. I've been writing some blog posts for the company, and it's been really fun. First off, me and John talked about a few topics that I could sort of explore, and we followed through with that, and I had a good time writing them, and we had a good time sort of hashing out ideas and coming up with fun stuff for people to read and for me to write about. And and after we sort of had a couple topics to explore and we worked together on some ideas, I was kind of given some creative freedom, which at first for me personally was a little intimidating to get to as much creative freedom as I did. But I think I sort of got used to it. I think I fell into the line of or the flow of the work. And yeah, basically just the blog post right now, and it's great to be doing what I want to do for professionally.
Excellent. And again, yeah, we've loved having you on board and working on those projects, and it's been a real treat to see your writing. I love your writing. I'll just come out and say it. You're a fantastic writer. I think you got a real way with the words. So nice work. I must say I think all three of you are great writers, honestly. And I think that's a really important skill to have, especially for young professionals. Communication and writing, so key. All right, and then maybe we'll turn it over to Brandon. Brandon's interesting. I think he kind of bridges the gap between what Abel's worked on with Auxesys and what Ryan's worked on with Auxesys. And so, Brandon, maybe you can share a little bit about your experience with Auxesys for us, please.
Awesome. Yeah, absolutely. Just like what John said, I've worked with Abel and Ryan. It's been awesome. I feel like I've engaged in quite a few projects at this point, and every single one of them has been different, but nonetheless, really awesome. I've helped out with some business plans, some UX work, some website development work as well, and yeah, each project has been quite unique and quite different, but it's been really awesome. Engaging on these projects, because like I said in my intro, I'm in school, and it's been really great applying some of what I've learned in school and to Auxesys. So it's nice being on the application side of things.
Certainly. Excellent. So I'm just going to chime in if it's okay with you guys. I've had a lot of experience working in traditional work places, and I've had a lot of experience working in micro businesses with more traditional structures, traditional employees, a few small businesses, some tech plays, here in Manitoba. Ran my own company on the West Coast, a little micro business. We did video production, and we had a really good time. But really running a micro business as a young person is quite difficult, is what I discovered after, I think, 9 years. We didn't quite make it to year 10. I think we did 9 years. Um, and I guess I'm just going to try and contrast some of my more traditional professional engagements with kind of the way that we've engaged, which I think we'd still all agree was pretty professional, very professional, but definitely not traditional in the sense that uh, I hope this doesn't sound too much like a sales pitch, but I'm gonna come out and say it, in that when all of us kind of work together, we're all our own bosses, really. And I try and speak with you guys in terms of, like, if you guys want to set your weekly schedule, if you guys want to adjust your weekly schedule on the fly, if you guys are adjusting priorities, especially I think now people are adjusting priorities so rapidly and abruptly, a traditional employment structure can often make that very difficult, especially if there's like health concerns involved. And so I've really enjoyed working with you guys and watching how you work when given that level of freedom. And we do have some traditional components, I guess, sometimes for client projects, or a lot of the times for client projects, there's deadlines and such. But really, with everything else, it's kind of come as you please, come if you want, when you want, how you want, as long as you kind of either A, get the work done, or if you can't, B, you communicate clearly. And so to engage with you guys in that manner, I've really loved. I've just loved working with you guys. I've loved watching how you guys work. I've loved learning from you guys. And I don't know, I just feel like in a traditional engagement with employee-employer relationship, a lot of that takes maybe a little bit more time to get to. And so it's been nice almost seeing you guys as sometimes my boss. And thanks for keeping me in line and helping out. And what a hoot it's been.
It's a great time.
That's been awesome.
Okay, so enough jibber jabber on that front. Let's get into some topics. And we usually at Circle One, we meet a few days prior to the live stream to kind of flesh out some topics and see what's on everybody's mind and what they'd like to discuss. We had a great session on Wednesday with the gang here. And so what's going to happen is I'm going to introduce a topic, and we're going to throw to a guest. They're going to get their thoughts on it, and then we'll open up for a roundtable discussion. And so in Wednesday's discussion, what really came up, what a lot of people circled around, including myself, was this idea of university and the university institution, and in particular, what does transitioning out of university in the modern era look like? So even in the last 10 or 20 years, I think we'd all agree that transitioning out of university and what that looks like has changed. And then if not that, in the last 5 years, it's definitely changed. And we think about the last 6 months, for example. I know some of you are very recent grads, actually myself included. I'm graduating and no convocation. And the job market is very different than it looked 6 months ago. I've solved that by starting my own company, of course, but I'm curious to throw to you guys and hear what your thoughts are and what your experiences have been with either about to look at a transition out of university, in Brandon's case, and in Ryan and Abel's case, what the transition has looked like. So maybe we'll turn to you first, Ryan, and ask for your thoughts on that and to describe your experience a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. My university experience was it was good. I had lots of different experiences. I started out at the University of Manitoba at the Asper School of Business, like a couple of the other people on this live stream. But I only did a couple of years there because I failed at math and I failed at stats. And I'm not ashamed to say it because it was just too hard for me. My brain's just wired differently. So I ended up transferring to the University of Winnipeg, and like I said earlier, doing the communications program there. And it was just a better fit for me, and I was learning things that it was similar learning. Like the things that I was learning were, I think they could have been taught at both institutions and in both programs, but it was just a different context of learning it. And it was really interesting to see that transition, speaking of transitions. But after I had finished the program at the University of Winnipeg, there were times where I sort of felt like it wasn't as big a deal as it was graduating university. And there were times where my confidence was low, trying to find a job and trying to find work in the field. And then there were times where I was very proud of myself and very excited to be in the professional working environment. And especially now, I'm sort of doing things in my field, and I am sort of my own boss, and it's a great experience. I haven't done much work per se. Like, I've done a lot of volunteering, and I think that my sort of post-university experience has been trying to boost my experience. A lot of people in the communications program at the University of Winnipeg do go into the very popular CRECOM Red River Joint program. And I had thought about that. There's a few reasons why I didn't go into it, a few reasons why I was thinking about going into it, and it was a bit of a debate for myself, and I decided not to, because I felt that the experience that I could gain from volunteering my time and services to on my own sort of terms was just as valuable. And I felt that I feel like the freedom that I had was the right path for me going into the post-university sort of field. And yeah, I've been able to gain really valuable experience and meet some really cool people and make some valuable friendships and relationships, and now I'm in a place where I'm starting to pick up on work and really sort of stand up on my feet, and it feels interesting. And a lot of the time I talk with my friends all the time about still feeling like a kid, which I don't know if will ever change, but there are a lot more adult sort of professional, I would say professional is the more appropriate term there, but there are a lot more professional aspects to my life now that weren't there 6 months ago, 12 months ago. And it's been an interesting ride. Yeah.
Do you mind if we dig in a little bit and ask you a few questions about that kind of post-university exploration? Like, did you turn to a traditional job hunt? Did you start looking at postings? Were you trying to get traditional employment?
Yeah, I was looking. I did take a couple months off after graduating. I was sort of maxing and relaxing, if you will.
Yeah.
And after that, I sort of jumped into the traditional job hunt. I had a career advisor helping me with that at the University of Winnipeg, and we were going over my resume constantly, and we were I wrote countless cover letters, and I got very, very good at writing lots of cover letters and writing them pretty quickly. And there were a couple cover letters, I will admit, that I sent out that just had a couple of copy paste errors, which is not always the best thing to do, and it feels kind of silly when you look back at, you're like, why is this person not responding to my emails? And then you look at your cover letter and you see that you
this isn't
wrote
Jeff.
the wrong
It's the wrong company.
Wrong company. Yeah, whoops. But yeah, I was looking for full-time work. I was looking for part-time work. I was constantly checking CBC for openings, and anyone who's in the sort of workforce knows that's a really great place to get in with, but a really tough place to get in with. And yeah, for a while I was planning on moving to Newfoundland, and I was doing lots of research on work there. I had gone there and met with people who were I was planning on volunteering with them first and looking for work once I had moved there. The plans had changed, and then I didn't end up moving there because I'm now in Winnipeg. And then I was looking for work here again for a long time, and it was just a bit of a like a ride, like a spoke on a wheel, and I was looking for something and not finding anything, and looking for something, and there were a lot of times where I was like, man, I can't even get an interview, I can't even get a job at the mall. But it was just about persevering, and now I'm here, and like I said earlier, standing up on my feet a little bit, and it feels pretty good.
Awesome. I think maybe Brandon has some mutual experiences he might be interested in sharing. Brandon, I know you haven't transitioned out of university yet, but as you look forward to that moment, how are you feeling? What's going on? What's your experience?
Well, I think it's pretty interesting because initially when I went into school, I was focused on getting out right away. I wasn't interested in the university journey at all. I was just focused on, getting out of school and finding a job. After being in university for a while, I've started to fall in love with the journey, because what I learned very quickly in school is that, you're not necessarily the smartest person in the class, the dumbest person in the class. You're just different from everyone else, and everyone has a different set of skills and competencies. And so with that, my idea of what a job looks like has changed quite drastically. I realized that, coming out of school, looking at what that job may look like may not be what I initially thought it was going in. So throughout my time in school, I started to figure out what I'm good at and what I'm not good at, and I realized that my journey transitioning into a job doesn't necessarily need to happen coming out of school. It can start to happen now. I don't need to necessarily wait. And I feel like working with Auxesys has also allowed me to realize that a little bit, because I feel like I've been able to take what I have been good at in school and start to apply it into Auxesys. And now my idea of a job has also changed once again after working for Auxesys. I had a core set of values and things that I was looking for in a job, such as flexibility, autonomy, and trust. And I feel like after engaging in some projects with Auxesys, I have found that. So now looking forward, I'm looking forward to my journey within school. I feel like my idea of what a job looks like after school has changed, and I'm hoping to continue down the freelance route and further define what I'm good at, and continue to engage with projects with Auxesys.
Awesome. Well, we'd love to continue engaging with you. It's been a real treat.
Awesome.
Maybe we can just hear from Abel really quickly. Maybe I know you've recently transitioned out of university and Asper actually, and maybe you can share a bit of your experience too.
Yeah, I mean, I guess one of the more common comments that I've heard, at least from my classmates, people in my graduating class, is that I guess there seems to be some anxiety with the transition, right? Because I felt this myself actually. I've been a student for the previous, 20 years of my life, give or take, right? So it's a huge step away from the comfort of what you have known for your whole life into this new phase. And so I hear a lot of anxiety, and you couple that with the fact that there's so many options, especially like in the world we live in today. Like you can do a million different things within each major, within whatever like work structure you want to follow, whether you want to start an Auxesys, be a freelancer, go into like a traditional corporate environment. There's so many ways you can do this. Yeah, so I think that for a lot of graduates, myself included, there's a bit of anxiety, a bit of uncertainty, and navigating that is really the big challenge that I found when I was graduating. And it's difficult because you're making these decisions that will really dictate, not dictate necessarily, but they'll affect basically the remainder of your life. And so it's a really big call to be making, right? So I mean, I've recently been like finalizing my career choices for once I do get back into Canada and I actually get into the workforce. And each time I'm reading through these contracts, I'm just thinking, man, like this is the beginning of maybe the rest of my life.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a heavy decision, and I think that's maybe where some of these challenges are coming. It's just it's a bit of the uncertainty, it's the anxiety of it, and just the possibilities are kind of blinding, right? So it's a gift and a curse, I guess.
How's everybody else feeling about that? I think that might have been the first time that the word anxiety was mentioned. It seemed like maybe you guys were alluding to it a little bit yourselves. I just want to say I can definitely second that feeling and say that I empathize with it. I think you guys are thrown together as young or approaching graduation or recent grads, encroaching upon professional life, and I think I kind of have been backwards. I've explored professional life and then gone back to school, and so I just finished all my course requirements. So I'm going to graduate in May, I guess, and I guess I have a job. I run a company, and we've got a fantastic book of clients. We've got fantastic work. We love what we do. We engage with amazing people like you guys, and I'm feeling pretty anxious most days. And so I wonder how Ryan and Brandon, can you share that feeling of anxiety when you look at your future professionally? Can I ask? I feel like I share a lot in common with you in that I also explored a bunch of avenues and then found out that they just weren't quite for me. I figured I was going to explore a CFA and I thought I'd be a financial analyst, maybe work in a back office with somebody, which I loved. I loved the CFA program and community and the whole idea of it. And I did some extracurriculars, the CFA Global Challenge. Oh, I'm hearing that we're getting no audio from Ryan. Oh. I think I have the problem here. Why don't we just hang tight for 2 seconds? I'm just going to fix a tiny little audio glitch, I hope. And we should. Can we get some audio from you guys?
Check.
There we go.
Check.
How do our production assistants feel about this new audio? There's maybe a 30-second delay. They're going to tell us.
Check.
I think we're good now. I'm looking at my mixer there, and it looks like we're good.
Good.
So, anyways, as I was saying, I pursued CFA, and then I kind of got to a dead end with that and just realized, oh my gosh. And then I was also pursuing a CPA, and I was thinking a CPA. I was trying to weigh them against each other and try and kind of hedge my bet so that if I finished university and hadn't decided which avenue I wanted to pursue, I was still appropriately set up. And then finally, as I entered like my final years of university, it just dawned on me like neither of these paths are for me. Like they're just not. And that was tough.
Yeah.
But did you find a lot of that, Ryan? Like in
Absolutely, yeah. The transition from figuring out what's right for you from what's wrong for you is scary because you go all in on something I like to really put my whole self into what I'm doing in the current moment, and I try and live presently. And then if you decide that that's not for you, you have to really take a look at yourself and say like, and stop yourself from sort of having that anxious thinking of I've sunk this much time and effort and work into this idea.
Yeah.
And now it's changing, so now I have to kind of reassess that idea and start on a new path. And I think that definitely there's some warranted anxiety in that action, but it's just so important for you to live a good life and live happily and feel fulfilled with yourself.
I guess that's kind of how I feel. It almost feels like as long as you're aiming at something and you believe that that's a great thing to be aiming at, even if maybe it turns out not to be the best thing for you, at least that's a start. Abel, Brandon, how are you guys feeling about that?
Yeah, I was gonna say I think it's anxiety inducing because when you go into school and you pick something that you're passionate about and you love, you're making a bet, and you're betting that when you get out of school that there's going to be something there for you. And school is a long road. It's not a quick 2 month ordeal. And so when you go through school, you have this time carved out of your life to hone in on your craft, figure out what you love to do, and you build this excellent skill set. But what's so scary about it is that you're betting that this skill set is going to pay off. And the thing is you don't necessarily know if it'll pay off until you transition out or find a job.
I think you're also betting that I could continue to craft this skill set and keep my sanity as well. It's like
absolutely. There's that side of the coin too.
Awesome. Abel, thoughts?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that it's a natural anxiety-inducing situation. Like, you know, you can do a million presentations, but each time you go out to do a presentation, you still feel anxious, right? I think that this is one of those things where you could be incredibly prepared for it. Like some of my friends who, you know, they had a job offer before they even graduated, and they still have like some of those feelings. So I really appreciate the fact that, you know, we can talk about these things and that, you know, there's, I guess, a destigmatization of these kinds of topics. And, you know, I really respect people who can go out there and just do their own thing. Like that must be like what I'm feeling times 15. So I have a ton of respect for people who go into freelancing and, you know, start their own things, because that takes a lot. That takes a lot. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, you know, I think there's so much more there, and I'd like to take the opportunity to invite you all back for future episodes. That's kind of the idea is, you know, I feel like 50% of the cast or the panelists will be like a revolving door of different professionals, and hopefully the other 50% will be maybe Auxesys advisors and independent contractors and folks that we work more directly with, and they're on the show maybe on a more regular basis. So, you know, I'd love to explore the ideas of putting yourself out there and taking risks and dealing with that anxiety. I'd love to explore the ideas of extracurricular, like all four of us, I think have a lot of experience with extracurricular, post-secondary related extracurricular activity and like the value that we've all gotten from that. I think that's like probably a whole show in itself to talk about that.
Yeah.
Because wow, I think we could probably all nod and agree that those experiences have shaped us as individuals in many ways. Yeah, definitely. But as we close out this topic, I wonder maybe we could ask the group what they think, and not to be too cliche, but if you could speak with yourself, you know, 5 years ago or 4 years ago, however long ago, in my case, 6-7 years ago, how would you advise your younger self in terms of thinking about your career and the path that you were going down?
Yeah, I was gonna say, if I could go back 4 or 5 years, I would tell myself, fail fast, fail hard. Don't start pulling on a thread, hoping that something's gonna work out and pull through. Just understand when something's not working, that's okay, you know. And I think that'll save you a lot of time and it'll allow you to figure out what you're good at faster, much faster.
Gents?
I think I would agree with that. I would also tell my younger self, easy on the ice cream.
I read your ice cream Facebook post yesterday and it tickled my funny bone.
Oh yeah. But yeah, I definitely agree with that. And it's also about just putting yourself out there and like Brandon said, being able to fail and being able to take that failure and learn from it and almost not see it as failure. Like you should see it as a success that you always learn from whatever you do. There should be always something that you take away from any mistake that you make. It doesn't have to be a mistake. It's a learning experience.
Abel?
I guess I would say two things to myself. So first of all, just to take the time to learn about yourself. um, I realized that, especially when I first got into university, I was really defined by other people's expectations in a big way. Obviously, coming from an immigrant family, there are a lot of expectations about, what exactly you should be doing in certain ways. So I felt a lot of that going into university. So yeah, so I would just take the time to really understand what I want to do, where I can add value in this world, and just focus on that. Because yeah, I feel like each new year that passes, I think, man, I really didn't know myself last year, so I should really put more time into that. And now it's like it's a thing that I really actively work towards, is to really understand where I want to be placing value of my life into. And the second thing is really to place a high importance on how I'm spending my time and who I'm spending my time with. I think just really taking care of like where my efforts are going would have tweaked some things, would have streamlined a few things that would have been quite beneficial. Yeah, those are the two things.
Awesome.
How about you, John?
Yeah, thanks. I think I'd totally agree with everything that all of you said. And it seems like maybe the core of most of that is take the time to get to know yourself, pay attention to yourself, and go easy on yourself. I think to be ambitious and strive and set goals for yourself, which it seems like you've all done, but to not let yourself fool yourself about yourself. I think is kind of what I would have told myself, yeah, sorry. I would say, John, in the next 5 years, don't let yourself fool yourself about yourself.
You'd be very confused.
Yeah, and I would say, what the heck are you talking about, John?
It would take you 5 years just to figure out what you meant.
Yeah, exactly. But then I think, not to completely nod my head and toe the line and just also put a counter proposal out there to the group. I think what I'd also suggest to myself is, and how can I zero in on this? I think there's that. Why is this coming to my mind? But there's that book, Don't Sweat the Small Stuff, which I think is kind of key and pretty apropos here, and resonates with a lot of what we're saying. Is go easy on yourself and learn and fail fast and find your way through life, ambitiously but naturally. But then on the other hand, I would also say to myself, do sweat the small stuff in a lot of regards. And I think what I've realized most in the last 5 years of my life is how much the little things can matter. And I think a lot of us believe that it's the big things or the ambitious things that we do in our life, like the big client meeting or the project presentation or the school project or whatever. And I think, yeah, those things are very important. But I think I've come to learn recently that the real important stuff is the mundane and the stuff that you do every day. And for me especially, it took me so long to realize, I think, how sensitive I was to the routine in my life. So going to bed at a decent hour, waking up at a decent hour, my nutrition, the way that I habitualize writing in my journal and keeping track of my projects, and just the tiny, tiny little things, even through to the little things that I'm trying to work better at every day, like, pleasing my partner around the homestead and keeping the place clean. And these are things that John of 7-10 years ago was just like, I'd do it different every day, and then wonder why things didn't work out so smoothly. So I would have told myself, if you really hone in on doing a great job of those tiny mundane things, all of a sudden it frees up so much energy and capacity to really grapple more truly with the bigger, important projects and problems that we face in life that aren't, brushing our teeth and eating breakfast, So enough of that. That's could turn into a diatribe as well. So I'd love to have you guys back to discuss more of those topics in the future. I think we're gonna have to take a quick intermission because that first topic I think is a deep one, and we could probably, like I said, talk about that for ages. But I at least want to describe the intermission and maybe just briefly go around and introduce ourselves as more than just professionals and people who do work and try and make money and build a career for ourselves. And so something that I've incorporated into part of the Auxesys process that is the first stop for anybody who I'm interested in exploring a professional relationship with, especially the independent contractors with, is we always like to book a 30-minute call right out of the gates and say off the top of that call, let's talk about work later. Like, who are we as people? And sometimes it is actually pretty tricky to get people to, like, people want to start off and say, well, I did this for school and then this was my first job and da-da-da. It's like, no, like, what do you do on the weekend? Once work's done and like you're just left with your interests and you don't have to worry about paying the bills, where does your mind go? And so we had some titles that we're not quite prepared for today, but mine, and my girlfriend is very embarrassed of me saying this, is Shred Doggy, because if all I had were weekends, I would just want to go snowboarding every day. Yeah, and that's where my interests lie, and so maybe we can go around the group and share a little bit about where our interests lie and what we like to do outside of our professional pursuits.
Yeah, I'll go first. I am 100% like a huge goofball, and I'm so surprised that I was able to and have been able to articulate myself as well as I have so far today.
Congratulations.
Well done.
Thank you. And I'm pretty lucky that I remember when I first had my first sort of get to know you phone call with John about starting to get to know each other and start to work together. I had trouble sort of separating my side hobby fun life from the things that I do in my professional experiences, because a lot of the things that I do are kind of intertwined. Like, I really love writing, and I really love volunteering and writing for the music reviews, and it's just something that's a big part of my life. And another thing that I do on the side, and that I haven't been able to do in quarantine because of the institutions are closed, but I am a volunteer radio host at the University of Manitoba's UMFM, and we play all Canadian music, and it's a really valuable experience there, and it's something that I just absolutely adore doing, and have grown so much from doing it. Other than that, I'm put a lot of my time into music, and I am a sort of amateur musician myself. I play with a band. I have played with a few bands, but the band that I'm sort of currently with, sort of over the past little while, has been called Westminster, and we're not currently playing together because a few of our members are scattered across the country doing different school and grad work. But we love to play together, and it's so fun. Oh, it's just so fun. It's just so, when everyone's on the same page, and you're jamming together, and you just feel something that someone else does, it's so communicative. It's so refreshing to be able to collaborate creatively like that without using your words, just using something that you've learned to do with your body and your hands and your creative mind. It's just so fun. And yeah,
Absolutely.
it's very, very valuable for me. And that's basically I try and devote as much time as I can to making music on my own and with other people. That's pretty much.
As we were waiting for you to join us today, we were doing up your title, which didn't ended up making it into the live show, and I think we decided we were going to say "Sweet Musician Guy" or something as your human title.
Yeah, absolutely. That's pretty accurate.
Awesome. All right, hey Brandon, what about you?
Yeah, so at the beginning of this episode, I had introduced myself as a thinker, and honestly, what keeps me up at night is my thoughts. I'm always doing something. I'm always working on something. But a big passion of mine that I'm almost irrationally passionate about is cycling, and I love cycling so much because I find it extremely meditative for me. It's a moment where I can take and ride and get all my thoughts out, and hopefully clarity can happen between the pedals and pavement. So as long as I'm thinking, I'm gonna continue riding, and yeah, that's
I love that Abel's eyebrows
human.
just raised when he heard that poetic line come out of your mouth.
That was awesome.
Thank you.
That should go on your tombstone.
Yeah, tombstone, grad quote, everything on my sleeve.
In a Hallmark
Yeah,
card, you know.
Yeah.
Oh my
I'm gonna get that tattooed.
Absolutely. Hold your boat.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, the very human personal side of me is, honestly, you can probably sum me up with, likes coffees and plants. So there you go.
It probably took me also about 10 minutes, and these guys gave you a compliment on the plants today, but it took me about 10 minutes into the show, and it finally was like, oh, wait a second, like, okay, that's cool.
You're in a rainforest.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Awesome. Okay, and Abel?
Yeah, so my title was going to be hip hop karaoke aficionado, I believe.
Nice.
So I love hip hop. I have for a long time. And I love hip hop karaoke. It's an event that happens in Winnipeg. It usually happens about once a month, but unfortunately they had to cancel it. I won one week, so they got me a nice T-shirt for it. It's upstairs.
Boom.
Awesome.
Perform of the week, it's my number one accomplishment of my life, to be honest. But no, I mean, I'm quite eclectic as well. But I guess the two big things in my life are that I love music in general. I love basketball. Like I am not very good at playing basketball, but I'll play all day if I get the chance to. I can watch games back to back to back. I just really enjoy the sports in general, but all activity also excites me. So I grew up playing football, soccer, and I tried like Canadian American football a bit. Not my jam, but I also watch games. Like I'm just kind of into all sports in general. Consume an unhealthy amount of podcasts, probably. Anytime I'm working on something, if I'm doing laundry, if I'm folding laundry, if I'm doing the dishes, whatever I'm doing, if I'm walking to the store, I have my headphones in and I'm listening to the podcast. So I do a lot of that. And it looks like I have a prop. I also love to paint. So we had a paint night tonight. And
Nice.
I didn't even plan for this, but we do painting.
Oh, snap.
Wow.
Nice.
Come on, bring that back. Bring that back. Let us take a longer gander at that. Come on. Oh,
Holy.
wow.
We did
That's
some painting.
amazing.
Onto it.
Hey, I'm
Thank
sorry.
you,
You know
thank
when
you.
you hear most people say, "Oh, I like to paint," and then they show you something like that? That's pretty
Thank you,
impressive.
guys. Thank you.
That's gorgeous.
Bob Ross over
Appreciate
here,
it.
hey?
I
just happened to be
would have
here.
also said I like to paint, but I'm not going to show you guys my paintings. They're actually sitting right there, and I'm not going to share them after that.
Wow.
Awesome.
That's all.
Cool. Well, it's been so nice to just hear a little bit more about you guys, and I think it's something that we want to always incorporate in what we do here at Auxesys, and I'm hoping, I guess the hunch is, my hope is that, more of the whole person is incorporated into the working environment and working engagements and considerations moving into the future, instead of only the requirements, the scope, the performance, the KPIs, the et cetera. And I'm not trying to say that that's only how it is these days. Obviously, I think there's a lot of fantastic organizations that build fantastic cultures and do a great job of incorporating the whole human into their culture. So hats off to those organizations that do. We spent so much time on that first topic, and it was such an interesting interlude that we didn't really get to the second topic, and we're about 3 minutes away from the close. And so what I'd like to do is introduce that topic, and maybe we were going to throw to Abel for this one because it was kind of his contribution on the call on Wednesday, and then also maybe invite you guys back to discuss this topic more fully. And the topic, I just want to make sure I don't get this wrong, was, we did talk a lot about transition, defining ourselves, and learning who we are as humans. But what does it look like to be beginning to explore what defining yourself as a young professional looks like in this new global economy? And there is a new global economy that you might even chart back 250, 500 years, whatever. But even more so, in the 21st century, and then even more so, in the short term, like in the last 6 months, and then even more so in the last 6 weeks. So it's pretty interesting how things have ramped up, and maybe I can just turn to Abel to describe what your thoughts were when you suggested this topic on Wednesday.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess it was just more around thinking of how new technologies are changing just the nature of where work is sourced. Obviously, like some of the examples in maybe the 2000s and the 2010s was outsourcing, whether it be professional work like call centers and all that. But then now it's actually moving into I think a bit of a different phase where you will see much higher end work being done overseas. There are collaborations between architects and engineers and all sorts of things being done abroad. And I think it's a really good indication of the direction that the world is going. I think overall, on the macro scale, things are getting better for people all across the world. Other than I guess the places with the wars, that people have more opportunity. There's better access to information, to the internet, to computer services, and I think we're on the verge of something really really exciting with people across the globe having access to the internet. Just how many ideas will be unlocked, how many opportunities for people, whether they be in the developing world, whether they be ourselves, to work in some of these new environments, the new industries that will come up. I think that's just it's a really exciting space to follow, and it's just I find it really interesting to think about that. Like having the developing world with access to internet, with access to financing, and just how that's going to change just the entire commerce.
Well, I think that might even be an episode that maybe the four of us could put our heads together a little bit more formally even on, because there's so much happening. There's so many specific examples and a lot of macro stuff going on, and to come prepared with a little bit of macro research. I know we've talked very casually so far on Circle One, but something that we really do here at Auxesys is do some seriously deep research, competitive analysis, all sorts of modeling, financial modeling, risk analysis, and those types of things. So it might be fun to come to the table a few weeks from now and start to talk about some of those implications that Abel is just kind of drawing the edges of right now. And so, hey, not that we're going to carve it in stone, but would you guys be interested?
Absolutely.
I'll be free. Yeah.
Excellent. We'll maybe try and figure out a solution for Abel's time difference if we do something like that. And hats off to you, Abel, for joining us. It's now 4:00 in the morning where you are.
I believe so. Yes. But
Wow.
If I look tired to the viewers, I'm not. It's because I'm sleep deprived, not because it's interesting.
Awesome.
Early.
Okay. Well, I'd like to close out by saying thank you to you all as well. Thank you, Brandon, and thank you, Ryan, and of course, Abel, for joining us on today's episode of Circle One, the future
Thank you
of
for
work
having us.
and leadership. It's been a pleasure. And thank you to our guests, our massive audience of live streaming guests that we're very excited to have with us. Thank you very much. We're going to keep doing this every week. It's just small side note. I know we're going over time a little bit, but interesting situation is that we've got another young independent contractor that has really only worked on one project for us so far, and that project has been to consult on live streaming strategy. And I'll admit I've got a bit of a video production background, but this live stream medium is completely new to me. Every week when I go live, my heart palpitates and nearly jumps out of my throat. There's a lot of technical stuff going on and a lot of strategic stuff going on, and it's like, oh gosh, it's a bit overwhelming. And so the first lesson that this young consultant delivered to me, who's basically an advisor, he's a young guy, but he's done a ton of live streaming. He said, pick a day, pick a time, do it at the same week, same time every week for as long as you possibly can. And he said it's only after 3 to 6 months that you really start to notice a difference. So that's the idea. It might just be tiny, and we're getting our feet underneath us still, but we will be live every week, Fridays at noon Central Daylight Time. Normally there's some promotional stuff that I think is said at the end of these shows, but I'll just end by saying if you like it, I think you know what to do. And hats off for joining us. Thank you all so much.